from Hong Kong. I wondered if it was worth spending more time asking the client who she shared this issue with, and in particular, people in a similar situation, or direct conversation with the parents on their expectations, because maybe the expectations, just to open it up, were her expectations actually the parents' expectations, or was she being too hard on herself and the parents were actually thinking quite differently about it? So that whole sharing of this issue, who she shared it with. I mean, one of the issues would have been, were there siblings involved? Because if there are siblings, obviously it's the burden is spread more, right? There's brothers and sisters who you can share this with. So the whole who I know this focuses on the client and should be on the client, but I think the whole issue about who she was communicating and sharing this with, because it's a bit lonely, right? Carrying this issue by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, great. Clement, let me just take over from this part. That will be easier. Well, Steve, thank you for sharing that. And I think your point raised out a very good, kind of like another perspective as to maybe we can also check in with the client to ask, well, in regard to this guilt, what have you done so far to address it? You know what I mean? So at least you get some kind of clarity around it, and then maybe from there on we can ask the client, so what do you think has worked for you so far? You know what I mean? And then maybe later on, so if that has worked for you so far, what else more do you think is missing here? That that needs our time together to strengthen that. So I think that is a very good way of kind of like not putting everything onto the client's shoulder and just kind of like spread that load around. Thank you for that perspective. How about anyone else? How, if you are the coach, how would you like to take the conversation differently? Not necessarily that it is the right way, but maybe there's kind of like a guard that, hey, that word that the client says sort of like triggers something inside you. No?
Yeah.
Morgan?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, so I'm not sure if I heard it correctly, but I heard that the client has been away for 12 years. So when that was said, one of the things that I was thinking of was why is she feeling guilty right now?
That's a good one.
If it has been a situation of year 3, year 4, and the parent saying things like that, I can understand. Okay, it has been 3 years, and they're asking me to go back. So then that feeling is there. So, but she has overcome it in year 4, year 5, year 6, all the way to year 12. I would be very curious to find out about, did something happen recently? Is it a health issue? I'm not sure whether we are over-prying in this, but really the time frame would be a very interesting topic for me. And I would like to have dwelt on that. And perhaps that things would have I guess the conversation may have taken a different direction as well.
True. And Morgan, that is really a very good perspective. But my curiosity back to you is, what do you want to do with that answer?
I guess back to her feeling of guilt that came out, like I said, like we heard several times, and like I said, between year 3 to year 12, that has never surfaced, or I don't know what has happened in between. And I would like to know if this feeling of guilt, where is it stemming from? What is the value attached to it?
I think I got it. Yes, I think you got the right point. I think I do respect that approach a lot, because by just asking the clients, what makes this guilt so pressing for you at this moment after being away for 12 years? I think what we really want to uncover is the value there. Even though it's a guilt, might not be a very positive thing, but on the flip side, it might help the clients to address what is it that is really important to her. that she has not somehow acknowledged it, or maybe she has not really given full attention to it, and now is the time that needs her attention. It's kind of like a values or emerging values that has sort of like evolved, gradually over the years. That is a very good perspective to anchor that values, and then use that values, then bring it out to the clients again and say, okay, now this is a value. How else besides being there physically, can what kind of other form can this value, take on besides what what is currently right now just being there physically. So that might be another good way to bounce off the clients away from a very narrow perspective of looking at how to move out of that situation. Well, thank you for that. Great. That was good discussion. Anyone else? As you're listening to that conversation, any part of that process caught your attention, and that you felt that, hey, maybe I'd like to do that a little bit different? Anyone?
I'll go ahead, Ben.
Wow, Laura, I'm looking right at you. I
thought there was so much rich stuff going on in the conversation. I think, too, one of the things that stood out to me was how it was actually a little bit more body language. I wish we had video showing, but client's voice got very quiet sometimes, and there was a tendency in the client that kind of the end of her sentences would sort of trail off. And I thought that was very poignant, and I thought that there was a lot of emotional content in that may have not been fully explored. I also thought some of her language and generalizations were very interesting around, at the very beginning of the conversation when she talked about moving abroad is like moving forward, but moving back to Ireland would feel like moving backward. I thought there might have been some more interesting things to explore there. And I also thought that if I were the coach, I may have tried to explore other alternatives to being within like close physical proximity. Because that, and also why is that physical proximity so important to the client? So those were some of the things I was looking at. Oh, and then one thing too, when the client said that at the point in the conversation where she said that she was getting more and more convinced that it's the right thing to do, I didn't know what it was. Like I didn't know what is the thing.
Yeah, that's quite sharp, Laura. I didn't notice that. Yeah. It might be very interesting. Yeah, you sound convincing about this. So, what is this?
Yeah, what is it?
What is this? Yeah, got it, Laura. Thank you for that. That's a brilliant move. What is this? What resolution? What is that resolution? That's good. That's a fun one. Thank you, Laura. Thank you. Wow, you see, everybody can cook a dish if you could just trust your gut. Okay, now, there is no right and there is no wrong. It's all about the dance. Okay, when you're in the dance, the certain music, certain rhythm just get hold of you. Okay, anyone else? Anyone? Oh, go okay, Hong Ming, a male perspective. So, okay, let's hear a male perspective.
The ladies are good at this. Okay, I tend to agree that with Laura that there's a lot of things going on in the client and in the expression. Part of the things because we don't get the visual cues, so that's one. The other one is that I think Coach One could ask more questions to maybe make some of these more explicit. So around the areas of what are you learning about your own intentions? What needs your attention at this point of time? And right at near the top at the beginning was about the meaningfulness of guilt and what is the importance of. I think I wrote something about the importance of guilt at this point in your life and what are you trying to create? So there were a lot of opportunities to ask some of these things to find out what the client wants. There were references to the past, there were references to the future. I hear that, but I would like to understand what is learned. What is she learning in the moment? So there's a lot of learning, but it's not coming out.
Precisely. And I think while you're saying that, sort of like I might be very tempted, I might be very tempted to sort of like see, hey, guilt is just one way of looking at the whole situation. What might be another way to look at it? As in, how can we reframe, not to reframe, to reframe the whole feeling, into something more positive that the clients can celebrate. What is the opposite of that guilt? It might be fidelity, being, kind of like being a good kid. And then we can use that as a positive leverage point to help the clients to loosen up a little bit, as in this is not necessarily a lose-lose situation. It could be a win-win situation. And I felt that the outlook, will give the clients more hope, that there is something that I can, work towards, rather than, I don't have this and I was in a minus. So that is another way that we can move along with the clients. That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Hong Mei, for that brilliant one. Anyone else would like to chip in? How about Renee? I love that perspective from a Canadian. So warm and so filled. So how would a Canadian do it differently?
Well, it's an interesting conversation because I connected very personally with it, in regards to, of course, being away, and the internal struggle and the tug of war that is what we consider home, and how we define home for ourselves, and how we can sort of create different definitions to help us to be at peace with our decisions that we've chosen to be away from family and friends. And so when looking at that, I think from a client perspective, or even from a coaching perspective, sort of looking at, where this might be coming from. What was her motivation, of course, for moving away? And is that motivation still sustaining the client? Where she is right now with her life, and has motivation shifted for her? And so when looking at sort of what even keeping her in the place that she's at now, how do we then look at what has shifted internally for her to be going through, just as another observer had mentioned earlier on, why now? And so really kind of looking at what the pattern has been for the past 12 years. Has she been through this before? And look at what kind of consistencies she can recognize in how to overcome what she's going through right now. And then what is that kind of conversation that can happen that can help to resolve it and lighten both for herself and for the other people involved in her situation.
Yes, good. Well, Renee, thanks for raising that point. I'm not sure whether motivation is the right word to fully express it. I would like to explore priority.
Yes.
Yeah, because I felt that the client's motivation is the same. And I think might be there is a shifting priority that arises over time, that it's just a natural process that things, grow and things reduces. And right now it's more of me embracing it rather than fighting against it. So if we evaluate in terms of motivation, it's sort of like it gets into that tug of war again. Because it's something that, no, I don't want it. But I think it's more like, hey, what's my priority? And how is that priority, grow and evolve? And then how can I now be more adaptive around that priority? And then looking more on, not so much of the guilt, but more on the opposite side of the guilt. The strength part of what the guilt is pointing us towards. And that really gives the whole conversation, a brand new look. And
a different state with the client.
Yes, thank you. And I think that's where we really appreciate the science of positive psychology. It does give that whole conversation a brand new piece of life. Thank you. Great. Anyone else would like to chip in into the so well cooked dish? Great learning stuff today. Huh? If not, well, it seems that everybody is very full. I'm going to end this. I'm going to end this feedback at this level, and